All right, good afternoon, class. Checking in with you to follow up as I said I would on a screencast. I didn't get as far into my comments today with the Aztec or Mexica as I would have liked to. But I will. I'm gonna do this in two parts. I'm gonna record for right now the screencast on the Aztec, and then I will go further a little later with the Inca. And my hope is that I'll have two different screencasts up there that will effectively take us through and get us set so that tomorrow we can proceed into other examples of political economy in the sort of late ancient or early modern world. So anyway, I'm just, those of you who are in class today, these images will make sense, and I've already spoken to them, so I won't go further in them today. But if you do have any holes in your notes that you would like to try to fill in, you're welcome to do that with the help of these slides. So I will just click through them slowly, and of course bear in mind that you can always pause the screencast and improve your notes as necessary. So we left off today, I was talking about Aztec Society and really how we have the sort of the aristocrats and the commoners, and spoke a little bit about how power and ideology were applied based on one's status within society. Of course, the great speaker and the female snake were the ranking executives within this society, and along with their court officials, priests, and lead administrators, they made a fairly powerful aristocracy. And most of the decisions, the successors to the great speaker and the female snake, they were chosen by and large from the immediate kin of the great speaker's family. So this was something of a hereditary aristocracy, we could say. But let me get into some other aspects that are important, and this speaks a little bit to not just the political economy, but also some of the the ideology that goes along with this social system. It's fair to say that the Aztecs were at their root a warrior society, and this is important because in my concluding remarks today I mentioned the powerful role that the Aztec religion placed upon this notion of a blood debt. And for the Aztec, they believed that they were engaged in a desperate struggle to help support the sun every day to rise in the east and give life and give definition to the calendar, to the growing season, and to the benefit of the religious rituals that were carried out at very predictable intervals for Aztec society. And so this put an added burden or an added emphasis upon the military, because oftentimes the El Tepital of the Aztec Empire, Tenochtitlan, which of course over time, by the year 1500 or so, the Aztec are going to be essentially colonizing up to 450 neighboring El Tepitals, and we'll demonstrate here momentarily how that works. But they needed warriors, and there were real benefits or perks of being a warrior. For one, a woman in Aztec society would be most celebrated based on the number of male warriors that she could contribute from her family to her calpuli, and then her calpuli to the Aztec state. And so one way of thinking about this is that if you were born into Aztec society, there wouldn't be a whole lot of levers that you could pull as a male or a female to increase your social standing, with the exception of the military. Because if you were a mother or a woman who reared male soldiers for the Aztec army, or if you were a male soldier who fought gloriously in the Aztec army, you would have one path towards social mobility, and you would be celebrated as an absolutely essential part of the Aztec Empire. Flower wars, this term here that I have is a euphemism, and that means it's a pleasant way of referring to something that is not quite so pleasant. Flower wars were wars undertaken by the Aztec military simply for the purpose of capturing soldiers, prisoners of war, so they could be brought back to Tenochtitlan and sacrificed on the temple steps in the center of Tenochtitlan. And again, this was important because it was the blood sacrifice of these captive soldiers that satisfied the blood debt such that the sun would keep rising in the east. And the Aztec believed they were living in the final world of their elaborate cosmology. And as such, it was a desperate fight, because if they failed to satisfy the sun, the final world would be coming to an end. So that's part of the sort of mindset, the cosmology that a lot of Aztec society was carried out under. Also, there was a belief that soldiers, like their mothers, soldiers who were killed in battle on behalf of the Aztec Empire, they would serve out, they would graduate into the highest heaven, meaning they would have the highest honor and the greatest eternal outcome as a result of their service to the Aztec Empire. We already talked about how their obsession with satisfying this blood debt, it made for a fatalistic religion, meaning things were not trending well, and the Aztec, the great speaker, the female snake, the gods or the pantheon of the Aztec Empire were all doing their best to stave off or extend life on Earth from its most certain destruction. Here we have a picture of the sort of sacrifices that would happen. Normally, priests would preside over pulling the hearts out of the captive, usually soldiers, but sometimes slaves, and these were the ways in which the blood debt, you can see the sun here in the sky, an important part of this codicy. Aztec weapons, they obsessed about obsidian, which is a hard glass rock. Some of you have probably seen obsidian before. It's like a dark black opaque rock. Has the benefit of when you strike it, it fractures in a really predictable way that creates a sharp edge. And these obsidian pieces were used for arrows, for knives, so on and so forth. And this is important to the political economy too, because the Aztec were able to trade and trade for obsidian. They lived in a part of Mexico that tended to have much of the regional supply of obsidian, and the Toltecs before them were impressive and powerful obsidian brokers throughout the Mesoamerican world. We mentioned already they would wear, the soldiers would wear dense cotton padding into their into battle, and there's also an emphasis upon hand-to-hand combat. The truly great Aztec soldiers would be applauded even more so if they were killing their enemy in hand-to-hand combat, as opposed to spearing them or otherwise killing them at a greater distance. And so this cotton padding was sort of like hockey equipment that protected them against too much excessive trauma while they were fighting. And then it's also worth noting that one of the ways in which the Aztecs succeeded and built up their strong empire was by forming a triple alliance. And the triple alliance was with two important neighboring altepetls. I think, well, I won't say which altepetls they were. I should know that offhand. But what's most important here is that they had these strategic alliances that allowed them to go up against individual altepetl and dramatically improve their chances of success, and successful they were. And it's also interesting how they broke up the spoils, because when they succeeded in battle, what typically would happen is Tenochtitlan would take 50% of the spoils, and then their two allies would each take a quarter of the spoils. So that element of the Triple Alliance suggests to you that even within this alliance, the altepetl of Tenochtitlan was favored and considered to be much stronger. Another critical part of the political economy of the Aztec was the way in which they exacted tribute from their neighbors. So when you were conquered by the altepetl of Tenochtitlan, they likely wouldn't destroy you. They would just beat you to submission, and once you submitted, you would agree to provide them with important resources in the form of tribute. And this little painting on the right shows, this is a drawing of some of the feathers and pelts and other items that the Aztec were able to exact from a neighboring altepetl. So Quetzal feathers, Quetzal are still to this day, but were then a very rare bird that had beautiful, dark, rich green feathers that were very much in demand, particularly among the aristocrats. And so these were an important source to give to the Aztec. Turquoise as a precious stone, gold, and you can see here sometimes they could charge an exorbitant amount of gold they could assess upon the people. Skulls, animals, so on and so forth. Oftentimes turquoise, bolts of turquoise cloth and robes and things of that nature were also common Aztec tribute. And with that, I will stop, and momentarily will take up with the Inca. Thank you.